From failed get-rich-quick schemes to disastrously misguided activism, these moments prove that for every good idea Brian has, there are about 10 bad ones. Let's jump right in and start the countdown with a brainy plan that went very, very dumb. Kicking off our countdown with the Family Guy episode, The Wolf of Wall Street. No, not the Leo DiCaprio version. We're not that lucky. This one involves Brian's brief stint as a stockbroker, which goes down the drain the moment he starts thinking he's the next financial genius, smarter than the entire market, or maybe even the whole world. The episode begins with Brian coming across Stewie's own treasure trove of grocery store rides because he's sick of waiting for his turn. Let's just not tell him about the power bill he's going to be handed next week. Once he realizes those horses need electricity to function as well. Brian is obviously curious as to how Stewie could afford all those horses, because if you weren't paying attention, he's a literal infant.
How do you possibly have the money for this type of stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, but only on one condition.
Fine, never mind then.
Investing!
Brian rolls his eyes harder than a roulette wheel, because he's skeptical as soon as he hears the word investing.
I don't know, Stewie. If you ask me, the stock market's just a rigged game where the top 1% make out like bandits and regular people get hurt.
But that skepticism lasts about as long as Brian's last novel. After a minor car accident with Consuela, Stewie makes an offer Brian can't refuse. If Brian hands over $100 for the stock market, Stewie promises to handle the fender bender mess. Now, any sane person would laugh at a baby asking for stock money, but this is Stewie we're talking about. The same kid who built a time machine out of spare parts.
Tell you what, give me $100 to put in the stock market, and I'll take care of it.
The market?
Brian, you won't lose your money, I promise.
As expected, Stewie comes back strapped with more profit than 90% of the users on Wall Street bets. He even offers to teach Brian his methods on one condition, that he teaches him Gymkata, which is the abomination child between gymnastics and karate. Yes, that's right, gymnastics meets karate in a weird ninja beating mashup that no one asked for, but Stewie's choice of costume could do better.
Well, here, let me help you get it off.
No, I pooped.
Fast forward and Brian is hooked to his screen looking at graphs all day long, but he's promised himself he won't fall down the same pit every Wall Street broker does, and stick to his ideals until Stewie comes up with an offer he's willing to drop everything for.
I'm gonna rent a Ferrari and cruise the pier. You want in?
Well, cancer's not going anywhere.
They end up being so successful that they're able to do stupid shit like renting submarines to play pranks on unsuspecting people. But maybe, just maybe, they should have researched more instead of jumping straight into it, because this can happen. It's just a prank, bro, right? No? After dragging Stewie out of the shadiest place possible, Brian tells him about this exciting new Asian company he came across that makes protein shakes with ingredients in Korean, which should have immediately told him everything they needed to know, but no, they had to see it for themselves.
Brian? I think I know why it's so cheap.
They're made of dog meat.
Of course, Stewie wants to bail, but Brian's got profit on his mind. They meet the company's CEO, and this is where it goes from bad to, Brian, why are you like this?
Sorry, Stewie. Wall Street is a people-eat-dog world. Everyone knows that.
Brian has to smell a rag that smells like bad decisions and chloroform. But Brian sniffs it like a fine wine. Next thing you know, he's waking up in a cell with the rest of the dogs waiting to be turned into slop for Sam Sulek.
Well, I guess Stewie's my only hope now. I can't believe I might die like this.
Just when it seems like Brian's about to end up as mystery meat, Stewie charges in with his Gymkata skills, taking down guards who, for some reason, only know how to run directly into his conveniently placed gymnastics equipment. They make it home safe, but Brian, ever the expert at dodging accountability, tries to pin his failures on the evils of Wall Street.
I am so sorry I became such a jerk. But I guess I learned my lesson about the evils of Wall Street.
Yeah, no, Brian, this is all on you. Next up is that episode, Catfight, where Brian's scheme to shut down Quagmire's Cat Cafe turns into a bigger mess than he bargained for, with both Brian and Quagmire ending up as the biggest losers. It all kicks off at the Drunken Clam, where Quagmire proudly announces his new venture, a cat's cafe right in the heart of Quahog. The idea? Use cats to lure every woman in town. It's a classic Quagmire plan, combining his two favorite things, ladies and, well, furry creatures. Even Joe's into it.
It's like a coffee shop, except one where lots of cats live and roam.
He thinks the cat cafe sounds like a great idea.
Well, Joe should have thought harder because he clearly forgot something really important before stepping into a place full of cats in every corner.
I'm realizing I may have a cat allergy.
Meanwhile, Brian soon discovers this feline-filled paradise, and he's not amused. Neither are the cafe's furry patrons. It's Brian versus the cats in a classic Mexican standoff. Lots of hissing, glaring, and unnecessary bleeps.
Hey, shut up! Don't look at me!
Brian is pissed off at Quagmire for opening up a place full of his natural enemies right next to his favorite bar, and he's not having any of it. Quagmire doesn't care about his concerns, and so Brian has to turn into the ultimate Karen and destroy his business himself.
Fine, but I'm about to become your worst nightmare.
Armed with a microphone, Brian goes on a crusade against Quagmire's establishment and tries his best to scare away any potential customers. His points are well made, but terrorist cats? Now that's just too far-fetched, don't you think, Brian?
Also, Persian cats? Let's call them what they are. Iranian cats. This entire operation needs to be shut down.
Shockingly, Brian's smear campaign actually works. The town cracks down, shutting Quagmire's cafe and banning all pets from public establishments. Brian, feeling smug as ever, is on top of the world. Until reality comes crashing down like a piano in Looney Tunes.
Well, apparently due to some recent public health concerns, the city has said that no animals of any kind are allowed in any public establishment.
What?
Yeah, well, that went well, huh, Brian? Stewie, sensing Brian's misery, offers a bit of help. Well, help might be too strong of a word. It doesn't seem like he's getting any work done, especially with the seating situation and everything.
Brian, look at my jump! Look at my jump!
Brian starts losing his marbles over not being able to go anywhere at all until Stewie finds a solution for him. He can just be his emotional support animal. Not sure why anyone would choose Brian for that role unless they want to feel really bad. Anyways, when Stewie doesn't seem to be getting the emotional support part of the deal, he takes off, leaving Brian stranded again. Meanwhile, over in Quagmire's world, without the cafe, he's stuck playing Cat Lady 2.0 with a growing population of cats he definitely didn't sign up for.
Okay, who's ready for some breakfast? Oh crap, another one died. Hey, stop eating her!
Oh man, the chaos reaches its peak when Brian walks in on Quagmire in the middle of a bonfire ceremony for his dearly departed cats. Naturally, this is followed by a classic Family Guy fistfight, complete with all the gory details you'd expect. But in the end, something miraculous happens. Maybe it's the smell of burnt cat hair in the air, or maybe they're just tired of punching each other, but Brian and Quagmire decide to call a truce.
Quagmire, I'm here for you. For emotional support.
And that's how the Great Quahog Cat Cafe War ends, with no winners, only losers, and a lot of regrettable choices. So, next time you think about ruining someone else's business, maybe don't go full Brian about it. At number 8 is the episode where Brian's confidence turns to dust as he offers to take the SATs for Meg, but then realizes that there's more to exams than regurgitating whatever comes to your mind. It all starts with Meg, who's completely freaking out about her upcoming SATs. Her practice scores are in the toilet, and she's desperate for help. Naturally, she turns to her loving family for support. Big mistake.
You're in high school, sweetie. You should be much more concerned about your weight than your SAT scores.
That's really supportive of you, Lois. Good job. With the SATs right around the corner, she's running out of time and options, and in a last-ditch effort, her friends come up with the classic high school cheat. Have someone else take the test for her. And who better than the dog who can't go 5 minutes without reminding everyone how much smarter he is?
You know how I've always loved your novel, Faster Than the Speed of Love?
Okay, what's this? She's peanut buttering you up for something.
Against all logic, Brian agrees. Armed with nothing but Meg's hat, he's somehow totally incognito at the SAT testing center because apparently no one really looks at Meg.
Hey, Meg.
Hi, Meg.
Hey, how's it going?
As the test is about to start, Brian, or should I say Meg, gets some well-needed encouragement from her father, and it's the kind that'll take him ages to forget.
For luck, Meg. We're all rooting for you.
Fast forward to the big reveal, and drum roll please. Meg's SAT score comes back.
Brian, that's 1,000 out of a possible 2,400. That's the worst score in my class.
And that's enough to knock the wind out of Brian's sails. Now he's just like the rest of the Griffins, and they can't stop rubbing it in his face, which should be expected after all that sass he had earlier. Peter eventually feels bad for him and tries making him feel better about his now confirmed dumbness.
Now, look, don't feel bad, Brian. It's fun being stupid. You don't gotta worry about nothing, you don't gotta read books, and you never die.
Not sure about the last part there, Peter. Peter tries to get Brian to look on the bright side of being less intelligent, and together, they do lowbrow activities like watching a demolition derby and visiting Orlando, Florida.
Look at you, Brian. Right at home with us dumb guys.
While in the middle of one of his brainless shenanigans, Brian passes out with a nosebleed, which prompts Peter to take him to the hospital, where Dr. Hartman performs a series of tests on him.
Well, keeping in mind the recent behavioral changes you've described, I did a CAT scan.
On a dog.
We laughed about that too.
And in a pretty nonchalant tone, Dr. Hartman gives it to them straight. Brian has a tumor in his brain, which should be expected after that one episode where they thought swimming in a radioactive lake was a normal family activity. Peter isn't going to let a measly tumor take away Brian so easily, and so he comes up with the most generic sitcom way to fight it off. And it does not go according to plan.
There's only one thing to do. Shrink down to microscopic size, enter Brian's brain, and destroy the tumor from within. I was raped by a bug.
What? Luckily, the tumor turns out to be benign, so Brian's life isn't exactly in danger. He could get it removed and go back to his old, brilliant self, but after a taste of the simple, stupid life, he's not so sure he wants to go back. Despite Stewie's desperate attempts to persuade him, Brian's happy living his best brainless life, until Peter, being Peter, invites him for a London adventure in the family garage.
Hey, Brian, I started the car in the garage and it's all foggy in there. Want to go pretend we're in London?
Rest in peace, Brian. Stewie isn't about to get one-upped by Peter as he devises a stupid way to get Brian to agree to the surgery, which, believe it or not, actually works.
Hey, Brian, you want to go see Dr. Hartman and get that procedure where you get 2 wieners?
And just like that, Brian's back to his old self, smarter and more obnoxious than ever, because at the end of the day, one thing's for sure, Brian just can't resist being a genius again, even if he's still dumb enough to fall for Stewie's scams. At number 7, we have the Family Guy episode Doggone, where Brian learns the hard way that trying to educate Quahog about foreign cultures, and particularly their dietary habits, is a recipe for disaster, especially when it involves his own species. The story kicks off with Brian getting invited to an award ceremony where they celebrate the most special writers in Quahog, and if you thought it meant the good kind of special, you're dead wrong. Brian's about to find out soon enough, but before that can happen, he makes sure the entire Griffin household knows that.
Oh, I thought someone just asked why they're honoring me.
No, nobody asked that.
Brian, we get it. You're cultured. But seriously, why are you only wearing half a suit? Ignoring the fact that he's pantless, Brian makes it to the award ceremony only to find out that it's in a pizza parlor. Not finding that ominous at all, he enters and gets the shocker. When your literary recognition happens next to a ball pit, it's probably time to reevaluate your life choices.
You just spilled my juice box.
Devastated and humiliated, Brian is in no mood for sympathy or advice, and his frustration boils over. His choice of comfort? Getting completely hammered.
Why don't you shut your goddamn mouth for once and go home and fuck your wife in the face?
Driving home drunk to drown out the embarrassment he just faced, Brian passes out and runs over a stray dog on the road. And if you thought surely not Family Guy could be this brutal, think again.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Oh my god!
Brian ends up burying the dead body in someone's backyard, but turns out he's being watched by none other than Stewie. After being tortured/pranked by Stewie over the dead dog, Stewie eventually comes clean and gives him the ultimate solution, which is also probably the easiest way to get in jail.
I just told you I hit and killed a dog with my car.
Coming clean would have been really stupid if it wasn't a random dog he killed, which, by the way, is a complete surprise to Brian. The realization that society values human life over canine life hits Brian hard, especially when Peter jumps in to demonstrate just how little he cares.
I could do it, Brian. I could do it right now. Nobody would say a thing.
Touché, Peter. Realizing his life isn't valued at all by humans, Brian is pissed off and decides to go on his crusade to free dogs from the shackles of humanity. But his first act of liberation, however, goes horribly wrong.
Go, fellow canine. Be free and enjoy life.
Pretty soon, Brian is hosting town hall meetings to educate the masses about the way humans are mistreating animals and using them for experiments. He even gets some classified footage of what goes on inside some lab experiments.
In cosmetic research labs.
Well, the lipstick is not bulletproof.
We know that now, for humans.
The chaos turns into insanity as the townsfolk discover that they're not allowed to eat steak anymore, and that's when Brian screws things up for himself by mentioning how some Asian cultures eat dogs.
You know what? This is driving me crazy. I want to eat a dog now.
I say we eat that one.
The mob's attention turns to Brian, and what started as a moral crusade turns into a dog-eat-dog frenzy. Literally. In the end, Brian learns that you can't force cultural awareness on a town as quirky and carnivorous as Quahog, especially when you're a talking dog who just happens to be on the menu. Coming in at number 6 is the episode where Brian's addiction to Twitter, X, turns him into the town's most hated dog. All it takes is one reckless tweet about some forgotten shows to turn the entire town against him. And boy, does it go south fast. We begin with Brian taking Stewie along with himself to a college library because he believes Stewie should be taking his education to the next level. Well, this is what he wants us to think because everyone, including Stewie, knows why he's going there.
That's good library.
Oh, you didn't come here for me. You came to be a creep.
After coming across a student protest about issues that are developing faster than the situation in the Middle East, Brian gets inspired to fire up his Twitter account to subject the world to his trashy opinions instead of just the Griffins.
If you don't want to get fired, don't become a teacher, right?
Totally, you should tweet that. #fire everyone.
So he does, and one tweet turns into a tweet storm. Brian's feeling pretty good about himself, imagining his followers hanging on his every word. But Stewie's got a reality check lined up.
#Oompa Trumpa. 0 retweets, 0 likes. Yeah, viral.
It's in one of those tweeting phases he shoots off what he believes to be his magnum opus of hot takes. Unfortunately, it's the kind of tweet that makes you question how he thought it was a good idea. While he's enjoying a quiet movie night, his phone starts lighting up like a Christmas tree. When he comes out, Stewie's ready to give him a pretty smug heads up with his voicemail because he just knows how screwed up Brian and his smart plan to get viral is gonna be now, and the entire world can see his tweet.
Blow it up bad. Oh, look at that. Huffington Post just picked it up. Buckle up, buddy.
Oh, pretty soon the entire town is coming after Brian, who didn't even bother deleting the tweet in the first place. But that does little, as the entire Griffin family now has to face the brunt of Brian's stupid tweet.
I told you about Brian. I told you.
Meg and Chris even get into a situation where they end up murdering everyone in the cafeteria to the tune of Freebird, because it can't be a good murder spree without that classic guitar solo. Desperate to calm the mob, Lois pushes Brian to apologize. But this is Brian we're talking about. So what does he do? Exactly what you'd expect.
You know what? I'm not a racist, all right?
Back in the safety of his home again, Brian makes up with the fact that at least his family has his back until they don't.
All I have left is you guys. Thank God you have my back.
We think you should move out.
Now officially canceled in his own home, Brian has to find shelter in the sketchiest part of town with some pretty shady rules to go with that.
I just have one rule here. No kissing the mailman.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
And that's pretty much where the wackiness runs dry. Suddenly, Brian's just another sad, down-on-his-luck dog trying to make it in the real world, far away from the chaos of the Griffin household. Next up is that one episode where viewer fan mail dictated the plot of each story, and yeah, it's the one where Peter has the craziest wish I've ever heard, not having any bones.
Oh no. I got a fart. but I don't know which way to lean.
Find out whoever asked for this episode and throw them in a psych ward, because even the original writers must be horrified. Anyways, it's one of these 3 episodes where we find out that the Griffins now have superpowers, thanks to a truck driver who thinks the best route to transport toxic waste through a city is a suburb. And after a very risky, albeit cool wheelie, the toxic waste lands right in the Griffin's front yard.
What do you think's inside? Maybe it's candy!
After Chris discovers that it is in fact not candy but radioactive waste, like it literally says in giant letters, they're all covered in the toxic goo, which does not melt their faces off like we'd expect. It gives them superpowers, like turning Stewie's already massive head even more massive with his telekinetic power. Brian's superpower turns out to be super speed.
Ask me how the Queen of England is.
How's the Queen of...
She's great.
Lois realizes that with great powers comes great responsibility, a message she conveys to the family, but knowing the Griffins, we just know they're gonna start abusing their powers the moment they go outside.
Now, we promised Lois we'd use our powers responsibly, but I suppose doing the exact opposite couldn't hurt.
Of course it wouldn't hurt, Peter. Just not you guys. Can't say anything about the rest of Quahog, though.
Well, then I'm afraid I'm gonna have to take it away from you.
It's in one of those encounters when Brian uses his super speed to score free booze over and over again, which is kind of impressive at first, until you realize the alcohol works just as fast as he's stealing them.
Hey, it's gone!
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Here's another one.
What the hell is going on here?
And here's where his brilliant plan goes woozy, like himself. He realizes drinking so many martinis in a row is about to backfire so bad.
Hi, can I get some pretzels or something? I gotta drive.
In at number 4 is Patriot Games, the episode where Brian's bad bet leads to a catastrophic chain of events that proves once and for all, never ever owe money to Stewie Griffin. So, it turns out Stewie is now a bookie, taking bets on all sorts of things like celebrity boxing, which is apparently a thing in Family Guy, and tonight is Mike Tyson versus a random actress. Naturally, Brian, believing he's got a guaranteed win, places $50 on Tyson, confident that no one, especially an elderly actress, could take down a heavyweight boxer.
You've got Carol Channing, the actress, beating Mike Tyson, the boxer. Hell, give me $50 on Tyson.
Ka-ching goes Brian, as he can already see the winnings coming into his wallet. The fight starts and Carol Channing is standing strong round and round, even when Mike Tyson gives her the combo special. Eventually, her secret move, which was take as many punches as you can until you win, actually ends up working.
I can't believe this. He keeps getting up. I'm so exhausted.
I guess sometimes the best offense is no offense at all. Anyways, the next day, Stewie's at Brian's door, ready to collect. Brian tries to brush it off, promising to pay him soon, but Stewie isn't buying it. He even delivers a verbal death threat wrapped in a friendly warning.
Yeah, well, here's a suggestion. Have the money by tomorrow and there won't be any problems. Huh? Yeah, 24 hours.
You don't have any idea what's going to happen to you in 24 hours, Brian. Of course, Brian doesn't. And just as the 24-hour deadline passes, Stewie comes knocking, this time with the attitude of a mob boss from The Sopranos. He delivers a relentless beatdown to Brian, demanding his cash, and things quickly escalate from serious to insane.
Yeah, you like that? That feel good? That feel good? Where's the money, man? Where's my money? You got till 5 o'clock. You hear me? You got till 5 o'clock.
And it does not end there for Brian. Realizing he made the biggest mistake of his life betting money he didn't have, he's pulling out the oldest trick in the book to escape Stewie, which is using a fake mustache, but Stewie's smarter, and he goes right back to whacking the life out of Brian.
Yeah, you got money to pay for fake mustaches, huh? Yeah. How much you pay for that fake mustache? $2.99.
Let me just take a moment to remind you that this is $50 he's trying to collect. $50, Stewie. Just let the poor dog go. I don't know what's keeping Brian from paying him back, but what Stewie pulls up next is enough to come up with every dollar he has.
Listen, this is crazy. You got... Oh my God!
Fast forward, and Stewie ends up apologizing to Brian, but if we're being honest, an apology is the last thing Brian needs. A visit to the burn ward would be first.
What do you say we let bygones be bygones, hmm? You shot me in both my knees, then lit me on fire. Piss off.
Stewie decides to make it up to Brian by letting him take a free shot at him. Who knows exactly how he's gonna use it to his advantage? And so, he doesn't reveal when he's about to go ham on Stewie. And it's starting to get into his head really bad.
Look, I'll do it even worse! Oh, look how hurt I am!
Turned him into a proper schizoid is what Brian did. And if you're wondering, Brian didn't let it go. He saw an opportunity coming at him, and he took it. At number 3 is the trippy episode from season 10, where Brian discovers that using shrooms to pass the time in the middle of a storm is not recommended at all. Should have just stuck to board games instead of being traumatized for life. It all kicks off as a storm is barreling toward Quahog, and the Griffins are gearing up to hunker down for the night. Naturally, Brian has a unique plan to pass the time.
Brian, what are you doing? Yeah, geez, Stewie. Scared the crap out of me.
As he's doing that, Stewie catches him in the act, and Brian has to come clean about the shrooms he's been saving just for this moment. Stewie, instead of helping stop his friend from screwing himself over, tries to act cool about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally cool about that. I have a lot of friends who do it, and they're willing to do it around me all the time because they know I'm so cool about it and I don't judge them.
Stewie, your friends sip on juice boxes and watch cartoons. Who exactly are you talking about? Anyways, Brian takes the shrooms and waits for them to kick in, as the rest of the family looks for ways to entertain themselves, and honestly, the kind of stuff Peter's doing, Brian knew he just had to take the shrooms. Soon enough, the shrooms hit Brian hard, and when I say hard, I mean it's like the animators decided to take a little trip of their own while designing these scenes. The visuals turn from everyday Family Guy shenanigans to twisted hallucinogenic nightmare fuel. When Stewie goes to check in on Brian, he walks into quite the scene. Brian instantly proves why having a buddy around when you're on drugs is the best choice ever.
I'm gonna cut my ear off to prevent World War II.
Oh God! Oh God!
Okay, everything aside, those scissors must be the sharpest thing in town because that was really smooth. Stewie decides to stick with Brian as he navigates the dark world of LSD and shrooms. But at this point, Brian is beyond anyone's help.
Do you like my soothing voice?
Eventually, Stewie manages to get Brian to sleep, hoping the rest will bring some relief. Unfortunately, that's the exact opposite of what happens. What follows is one of the most haunting sequences in Family Guy history. It's as if Tim Burton personally dropped in to direct. Jagged shapes, shadowy figures, and unsettling animations take over. Even for Family Guy, it's pretty messed up. Eventually, he snaps out of the dream, thirsty unlike he's ever been. After chugging a gallon of water, he walks back to the family, glad they're not eldritch monstrosities beyond his comprehension.
Hey everyone. Oh, I'm sensing a lot of negativity here. What's going on?
The episode ends with Brian swearing off shrooms forever. Because if there's one lesson we learned, it's that a night with the Griffins is already trippy enough without adding psychedelics to the mix. Winning the number 2 spot is the Family Guy episode, Brian the Closer. In this one, Brian's ill-conceived plan to hustle Quagmire ends in a sweet dose of well-deserved karma. The episode kicks off with a scene that will forever change the way you look at a rope. For whatever unexplained reason, Peter's obsessed with the thing. How much do you ask? Think Gollum levels.
Precious. Wants a precious rope.
Peter wants the rope at any cost, and he concocts his genius plan to get rid of Brian from the picture. It involves a second piece of rope and his car. Brian is unwilling to let go at first, but then letting go didn't do him any good as well.
Oh man, I'm real sorry about your mouth, Brian.
Down in the dumps, Brian drowns his sorrows at the clam, where Quagmire can't stop feeling bad for him, but not before he lays into him like the rest of Quahog.
I don't care enough about you to lay into you. But now that you mention it, your face looks like a used condom.
However, Quagmire does offer to help Brian, referring him to his dentist, who decides to do more than just a little dental work. Brian ends up with a brand new, dazzling smile to match his ever-growing ego, and the Griffins are totally liking it.
Right, here it goes. Oh my God, look at out your teeth!
With his Hollywood smile, Brian stumbles upon a new career in real estate. He's surprisingly good at it, selling homes with a single flash of his teeth, even to some seriously shady buyers.
Now, I am obligated to disclose that the previous owners were murdered in this house.
Whoa, buddy, quit drilling. You already struck oil.
In his climb through the corporate ladder, Brian gets to sell one last house and be made partner, but turns out nobody wants to buy it, and so he has to find a sucker to hand it off to. And who else could that be except his age-old enemy, Quagmire.
The ceiling is a pool. The ceiling is a pool. Quagmire, you gotta get this.
But when they get to the apartment, the room looks more like an abandoned drug den than a luxury apartment.
That's probably nothing, but there's a stain on the rug in the shape of a little kid.
After the purchase, the guys accompany Quagmire to the property to find it is a rundown dump and was completely misrepresented. Joe reveals that there is an escape clause good for 72 hours after purchase, but they'd have to find Brian first, who's hiding in a motel. Quagmire's already 2 steps ahead, though.
You know, when you were poor, you were always a douche, but at least you came by it honestly. But now, screwing over the people who helped you? I don't know how you sleep at night.
Maybe on a mattress stuffed with other people's misery? Just when it seems like Brian might actually feel guilty, he double-crosses Quagmire at the last second, making sure the clock runs out. It's a dirty move, but he's all too pleased with himself, until Quagmire decides to get even.
Compassionate. And that is 72 hours. Enjoy your crap hole, dumbass.
You son of a bitch!
Payback's a dish best served with a side of humiliation, and Quagmire gives Brian a one-way ticket to Uglytown. All those shiny new teeth gone in an instant. And finally, in the #1 spot, we have Brian going back to college, only to find out that maybe cheating your way through every test does not end well in the long run. It all kicks off when Brian pins a snarky piece about Peter's cosplay adventures for the Sunday magazine, which gets picked up by none other than The New Yorker. Things are looking up for Brian until his dreams come crashing down when they find out he's actually a college dropout.
You're a college dropout?
Stewie's been waiting for this moment, and he's all ready to bask in that sweet, sweet misery of Brian.
I just heard the dog got fired. Did I miss it? Did he cry yet?
Not willing to let this setback ruin his life, Brian decides it's time to go back to college and get that degree. Unbeknownst to him, Stewie has hitched a ride to campus, and he's got a replacement baby filling in for him back at home.
Stewie, you want some more strained peas?
What you talking about, vile woman?
His classes start off with a bumpy start, and then it gets even more bumpier when his professor warns him with a suspension if he doesn't pass the next test.
This is advanced physics, right?
I have a right to defend myself as a woman. No means no.
Fast forward, and Brian is hard at work and buried under assignments when Stewie helps him out with them. Brian initially hesitates, but then goes right back to his usual sly self and hands it in. And apparently, he's the only one who passes. His teacher, who strangely looks like a knockoff Stephen Hawking, is so impressed he invites him over to his cocktail party, where he confesses a dark secret to Brian. And no, it's not about the visits to the Epstein Island.
You know, Ryan, before you came along I was so depressed I was planning to kill myself.
Brian eventually cracks under the pressure of a final test, and knowing he will only pass if he cheats, he decides to return home with Stewie. A shocked Lois attempts to encourage him to go back and finish the test, and eventually chases him away.
I really don't want to see Mr. Who. Stop it! It's scaring me!
Stewie forces him to go through a montage of him working out and climbing hills for a class test? Okay, like, how is that supposed to help? Anyways, Brian makes it to his final test, which he spectacularly fails, and he's actually happy about it until the family bursts his bubble.
No, it's not.
Yeah, what are you, out of your mind? I mean, what the hell? I don't understand that. Where's that line?
You're such a loser. I hate you!
And there you have it. Brian's grand return to college ends in an academic nosedive, proving that even when he does the right thing, it somehow ends up as a total disaster.